perhaps I can just give a little bit of background as to why we're here. And with Hannes. Hannes is from Estonia, of course. Estonia is a very interesting and pioneering history around the introduction of to some extent, e-governance, and especially some digital type services to provide public services to their citizens. And one may have heard in the news of all the different solutions that are that we hear coming out of Estonia, e-residency, e-notary. So we became interested in that remit. And speaking with Robert here with the Partnership Bureau, we were able to approach the Estonian mission to see if we could get somebody here to come on board to help us a little bit shape our own thinking around these issues, and maybe the offer that we can have the support to our country offices. And Hannes has been here for 3 months now. It's kind of coming toward the tail end of his stay, and that's why we wanted to sort of save it for last, to have a good opportunity to discuss with a broader group some of the work that he's been doing, relate some of the experiences from Estonia, and see how this can really also inform our own thinking as an organization that has a very broad and strong tradition around governance, and how we can use some of these tools and how we can incorporate them. We worked together with Niall from the governance team to bring Hannes here, and therefore it's very much a joint endeavor. Hello, welcome. With the governance team, Simona and Patrick, I guess, couldn't be here today. Simona is traveling, and Patrick too. So it's we are the next in line. That's why we're here. Without further introduction, I think I'll hand it over to you, Hannes. And thanks very much for making the time today to present. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. And I want to surprise you for a reason that you're here. I bring you some Estonian chocolate. I embassy bring it to me, but it's not very polite and located anymore. There's no idea to eat them by myself, because I will go back to Estonia after 2 weeks and I can eat them endlessly. But you cannot.
That's a good start.
It's a really brown bag lunch. It's more of this brown box.
Very brown. Yes.
The chocolate is brown. Okay, enjoy. Well, thank you very much, Bernardo, for kind words. And I tried to wrap up on 30 minutes, and that we have discussion time for discussion. But any questions arising during my talk, please ask immediately. Well, my name is Hannes Astok. My permanent position in Estonia is e-Governance Academy, what is independent and mission-based non-profit organization. And actually, it was brought into existence with very big help of UNDP. It's 15 years ago, UNDP Bratislava was launching an assistance project to support the e-governance related knowledge sharing in Eastern European and CIS countries. And as an outcome of this project, the e-Governance Academy was also made as an institution later. And we have been in business now for 15 years, and we have been working with close to 60 countries already globally. And then this number is growing rapidly as the interest towards e-governance and the proper implementation of e-governance is rising. We have currently 25 plus permanent staff, but we are using very broad expert pool, both from Estonia and other countries with hands-on experience. And I think our cutting-edge knowledge is coming from direct experience from the government. So most of our experts, or almost all of our experts, have been working inside the governments and implementing e-government solutions. So what we are advising to our governments is not academic speech, it is practical hands-on experience with our own failures and success stories. And we are mainly working demand-based, so dependent on the needs of the governments and countries. We are formulating and developing the projects together with the donors, and based on it, we develop already programs and projects, and if there is financing available, usually from international donors and the Estonian government, we can implement the projects also. And as you can see, we are working with a pretty broad pool of donors, starting from Estonian government, European Union, during last years, UNDP haven't been very much involved, but we hope to improve the situation. But also Swedish, UK, US government are providing assistance to the projects. And currently we are running projects in pretty wide scope of countries. Traditionally, we have been working with CIS and Eastern European countries pretty much, but we see currently also pretty much African countries are emerging, also Latin America, Caribbean. We see a lot of interest towards the e-governance solution and implementation of them. And as you can see, there are both smaller countries and bigger countries, so it's either sometimes some countries are telling us that the Estonian experience is not very relevant because we are a small country, 1.3 million people only, and it might be that Ukraine with 42 million people is initially thinking that it's not relevant, but after we have been working closer, we have understand that there is much more similarities than differences. Well, what I have been done here is learning very much, first of all, how UNDP is working, and also that how the SDGs are connected to ICT and digital government or online government or e-government issues. And it's clear that all SDGs, achievement of SDGs globally is very much connected also to e-government applications. As definitely any government is functional only if it's good government and governance is in place. If there is no government or governance in the country, you hardly can fight with poverty or hunger, because if the government is not functional, nothing is happening. So basically, this is the basic understanding I'm starting from, and it's the same with in Estonia and in most of the countries. So starting with I cannot say its definition, but the key understanding that everything what is connected to e-government and e-governance, it is about reforming and modernizing the public administration. E-government is a tool to reform and modernize the public administration. It is not about the computerization of the government offices and just putting hardware and software in place. It should be a much broader approach where ICT tools or e-government tools can help. And definitely, the whole process, if it's successful, it's a complex and comprehensive process of organizational, regulative, and technological measures. It is one of the key failure points in many e-government projects, that it is taken as a technology project, both from the government side and both from the donor side. If you take it only as a technology project, you will put in place hardware and software, but you do not get any results, or more or less any results, because it is the tool to modernize the government, to re-engineer the business process and re-engineer the public administration. But if you take it solely as a technology project, you are getting the technology, but no better governance. And this is the problem. And it's not only donor problem. Many national governments doing the same thing, and we have done the same problem in same mistake also in Estonia several times. So only if the governance process, business process owners, regulators, lawyers, and technology people are involved all together, you can achieve good results. If something is missing, you more or less you can be sure that you will fail. Well, and also it's a narrative what I bought from the World Bank Development Report 2016 about the digital dividends. To be successful in implementing e-government, you need to have both analog and digital elements. So digital elements, what you can see in the right column, we are technology part. Again, the same what I just discussed, that if you must have technology in part, but you must have in part also legislation and regulation, sustainable organization, change management inside the organization or inside the country even, and you must have political will. As you all know, as a UNDP staffers, that without political will, nothing is moving. You can have brilliant plans, brilliant even money in place, but if there is no political will in the government, nothing is moving. Either for president or prime minister or whoever is in charge, or line minister, but it should be in place. and it is a trigger. We have been working during the last couple of years in Ukraine very much, and we have seen that until Mr. Groisman was Deputy Prime Minister, he was driving some things and establishing e-government agency, what was pretty successful in the beginning. After Mr. Groisman was President of the Parliament for 2 years, absolutely nothing was happening. Now he's a Prime Minister and things are moving again. Hopefully it's not, if he one day he's not anymore Prime Minister, I hope we have gained results that what are at least from a point of no return, So we can see that it's unfortunately it's in the way, but it's in any government, whatever country it is. So well, let us go briefly through the key points and then come back to the services and SDGs and to a discussion. So, just fast. Okay, where is the bottleneck? So the typical situation, what we see in each and every country, is that at the beginning, that the citizen or businessman, to get to public service, must visit endless number of government officials and actually get the certificates from one institution, another institution, a third institution. First of all, that I am myself. Secondly, that I'm living in my house. Thirdly, I own my car, and so on and so on. I own my business and so on. And then if you put, he or she must put it together and visit another official who issue another certificate. Actually, all those certificates are just pieces of records in the databases what the government is owning, either in paper or either in digital format. So actually, you're collecting the information what is owned by the government already and anyway. So if you are going to the next step, what many governments already approaching is to have a kind of one-stop shop approach. So we can see that businessman or citizen must visit only one official, but the official will do the same work, but collecting the data from various databases to prove something to provide a new service. Okay, and this is a typical government process. So our question is, can we make it somehow more efficient? Can we save much more time, what means money, for the nation in general? So our understanding in Estonia is that you can, if you have digital data in place, if you have good data exchange and you have strong digital identity, you can modernize all those processes and definitely redesign the processes here. So if you have high quality data, if you have secure data exchange and strong digital identity, it could be self-service in most of the cases. Definitely, there might be in some of the cases that one or another official must approve something at the end of a process. But even this could be done by the machines, or at least do kind of pre-checks, most of the pre-checks by machine after somebody approves it, if you do not trust the computer. So this kind of automatization actually saves a lot of time and money for the citizens. I come back with the samples later. So basically, just if you can calculate how much money and time we can spend by providing services online, so we can see that establishing company online, what is doable in Estonia, you can do it in 30 minutes, even sometimes even in 15 minutes. And if you do it in traditional means, you're saving like a couple of working days to do it. Just visiting offices and driving around and collecting papers and submitting papers. And the same with other issues. So as we have a very small nation, 1.3 million people only, and as any government is under pressure to do more with less, so the efficiency, and if you can like delegate and automate the services, it's a huge value for the government and huge saving actually for the government, but also for the nation. What is not usually calculated is kind of total cost of ownership for the services. Government is only calculating time and money what they are providing to the services, how many people you need to keep in the front office and handle the documents. But think about if people, businessmen must come from I don't know, 50 kilometers away to submit the paper and then drive back, or the same with the citizens. So what is the actual total waste of time what the governments and the nation in general are doing? Well, so briefly going through all those three digital elements. So database is online. If a database is in this way organized like it is in Sao Tome, or even these actual pictures,
Oh, wow.
or it's a population registry of Sao Tome, so computers cannot read those documents. So you cannot put anything online. So you must have a data in digital format, and you must digitize your databases, or start at least capture the data from day one in the digital format. It could happen from tomorrow, and after you can digitize back the documents. But there should be data in digital format, and the key registers like population register, or civil registry, land, businesses, property. So this kind of thing should be at least in digital format. Vehicles are usually because this is like usual business, but in many cases, all rest of the data is still in paper format. So you must go digital with the data, because it's a basic. It's sometimes forgotten that let's do something online, but if the data is not digital, you cannot do online. Also, what is important to understand from the very beginning, it's not very much valuable to collect the similar data to various databases. So the principle, once only, what is now broadly recognized in European Union, it's good basic for the idea that let's capture the data only once and keep it in one single register, and others should reuse the source from the single source. So, and also the ownership of the data, what is usually not discussed even in the government, it's usually taken that the government is owning the data, but actually citizens and businesses owning this data. Government is just handling it. And this is, takes us to a very fundamental question also, that if my data is owned by myself, can I take a look who is using it? And this is about trust towards the government. Can I be sure that the data I'm providing to the government is properly used? So it's not misused to take a look about the latest data because she's my neighbor and she bought just new car, and I want to understand where from she gets the money. But this typical situation with the tax officers who like to know more about their neighbors after they bought a new car.
Oh, is that right?
What was a story in Estonia, and after it, 7 tax officers were fired to make it public.
Oh, wow.
Because it's a human curiosity. So we need to be careful also around and have clear rules in place. Okay, another issue is the data exchange. If you have digital data and we would like to put them to the services, we need to exchange it properly and securely, and make sure that it's not corrupted during the transmission, and there is only authorized access to the data. This is the picture actually, what are the data connections between Estonian government institutions. So how they reuse the data from registry or another. And it's probably most of the governments having similar ties between institutions, because pension authority likes to use the data from the tax authority and from the social security authority and so on. So they exchange a lot of data. And the question is how to organize it better. If you do it in a way, you can do it basically and build up all one-to-one data exchange protocols or whatever modalities, but it will, in day or another, it will end up in the mess. We call it spaghetti connections. It's because it's like picture is like it, but it's much better probably to organize it better and make it more standardized manner. And we are using the solution now already functional for 15 years, connecting 1,500 services, all databases, and also providing more than 350 million transactions per year data queries. And then this is the picture, we call it Crossroad or X-Road. It's already implemented several other countries. Finland starting to use it. Latvia is going for it now. Azerbaijan implemented it already. Namibia and several other countries are currently planning to use it. So it's an organized data exchange system, very much standardized, allowing government institutions quickly to develop online services also, because you can, in standard manner, retrieve the data from the databases, register the service, get the approval from the data protection authority, and then open the service for the general public already for the public portal. So the issues what you need to discuss around it is the personal data protection. First of all, who can access your data? It should be clear that only authorized officials or persons can access the data, not like each and everyone. And another issue what is very interesting and important, there should be a legal value for request and answer. So if I'm asking my data from the civil registry and I'm getting it from application, there must be a legal value for this data also. Because if somebody is issuing the paper certificate and signing it and putting stamp, it's the official who is approving that this data was okay in this, as is in this moment. Now, if it's machine to machine, it's much more complicated. But if there is some misunderstanding and somebody is taking the government to the court, government must be able to prove that in this certain second, the data was as it was. Because based on this data, huge transactions could be made. Somebody is selling the car, somebody is selling the house, somebody is registered as a dead or born. So it's a big question what may arise around it. So all data must have legal meaning. Officials must understand it also. What is in the very beginning very complicated question for most of officials to understand that if it's not printed in the paper, what it means. So you need to discuss it with the officials also. And you need to log and timestamp all the transactions later to prove that it was as it was. And there cannot be no single point of failure because those systems must work 24/7, surely, because it's connected to the borders, to the police, to the fire brigades, and they cannot work without data anymore. And the digital identity, growing issue in many countries, because if you like to build the services, you must be sure to understand who is at the other end of the channel. And we started already in Estonia in 2002 with digital ID and ID card, what is rolled out for the whole population. And what is our experience and comparing to other countries that we made it compulsory from the beginning. There was no option to opt out from the chip. You don't need to use the chip. If you don't want, don't use it. But what happens in our neighboring country, Finland, that they made two options for the citizens. You can either take the ID card with chip or without chip. And without chip, it was €5 cheaper. So you can imagine that 95% of the Finns were subscribing the card without chip. But the beauty is that if you have this chip card, so you most probably don't start to use it the next day. But you may start to use it after 2 years. And then if you have it, you can start to use it immediately. And you have digital identity on it and you have digital signature on it. So only what you need is a card reader and you can start to use it. If you need to go to police station and wait for another 5 days to get the card, probably your emergency to use it is over already. So it should be like next to you and waiting when you start to use it. And the next step, what we did, we migrated the same type of digital certificates from a chip on the ID card to a mobile phone SIM card. So each and every mobile phone is having a SIM card. So you can transfer your mobile phone to identification tool. So basically by using browser in the mobile phone or computer, you can verify your identity because a very small applet is starting when you're using your mobile ID. And you need to put on your PIN code, all these connecting the systems in the background and proving your identity. You can provide the digital signatures when you're on move. And this pretty typical situation that you see people are walking on the streets, not texting, but just putting digital signatures. So you can do it everywhere. I have been in US now for 3 months. I have provided hundreds of digital signatures. And you can imagine what will happen if I cannot do it. I probably cannot do the business in a similar way if I'm out from my traditional office. So efficiency, we have calculated that each digital signature saves 20 minutes per transaction. So you don't need to print out the papers, you don't need to sign them, don't need to put them into an envelope and mail it. And think about the younger generation. think about your kids. Do they know what is envelope to put the paper in? What is a stamp? How much you charge for a stamp? What is a mailbox? It's already mission impossible for them, but we need still to do it, and most of our government's still waiting that we are doing it. So it's 20 minutes per transaction, but we have calculated that according to the volume of digital signatures what are provided, each and every Estonian who is using digital signatures can save 5 working days. And this is already big time, what we can save. And okay, it's accumulating. You cannot take it off like 1 week, but it's like by 20 minutes it's accumulating. So you can do whatever what you want with this time. I will go shopping, I will go for holidays or do something else. And it's 5 working days is 2% of our working time, and so we can literally say that our nation can save 2% of GDP, and we are spending 2% of GDP for defense in Estonia. So we can say that because we're having digital signature, we can afford defense. Well, this may be too big narrative, but anyway, that is something. Okay, and there are a couple of statistics just to show you that the use of the digital signatures during last 5 years has grown rapidly. And at the very beginning, it was in the first years, there was just a couple of hundreds or 100,000 later, digital signatures were given. But more were applications, more were possibilities to use it. It's growing really fast. And the beauty is that, okay, this is the latest statistics, 2 slides, sorry. So it's not only for the government services. The digital signatures and digital identifications used for the services, for the government services, it's just a minor part. I guess it's like a couple of millions from this annual 79 million digital signatures. A couple of millions goes for the government. But the beauty is that it's mainly going like for the banking. So you can sign your bank transactions with a digital signature in the biggest banks. You can go for online pharmacy with the same identity. You can go for the telecom portal to change your services and sign your contracts there with the same digital identity. Again, another telecom, or go for online shopping with a digital identity again, if you like, or even political parties are using the same tool to identify their members in the, let's say, member portal. So the beauty is that the ecosystem is open for everyone, not only for the government, and whole society is benefiting from this ecosystem. And this is the beauty, how to make the digital signature and digital identity available from each and every citizen and resident, and opening to the whole society, not limited with the government services. And if you can calculate that with 371 million digital signatures, what Estonians have provided until today, during last 15 years, and if you calculate that we save like 80 cents per signature, so it's already like the nation has saved $300 million. It's a big money for a small nation. Also, we have government service portal, what is pretty typical and not among the best. So if you like to get the good samples, you need to look at UK. The UK government portal is definitely the best one, but there is like 50 persons are working with the portal on a daily basis. So it's a huge work what you should do. And cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is definitely a growing concern. And then sometimes government says that we don't want to go online because there are so many digital or cybersecurity concerns, but you just need to handle it. And it's not only about the technical issues, it's about behavior of officials and of the citizens also. And you need to tell to officials and people how to behave in the digital society. And it's because it's not anymore the same as it was. Or harassing, whatever happening in digital sphere, but also what kind of emails you're opening or not opening, or attachments you're opening, and so on, and how you generally behave in the digital sphere is a key question. And the analog elements. There should be a proper legislation and regulation in place. This is clear because in the government nothing is happening without regulations, but at the same time, there is a risk to over-regulate and to describe too much technology in the laws. And to change the law, it usually takes in most of the governments like 1.5, 2 years. And if you describe technology too deeply in the law, most probably the technology is already out of date and the law is passed. So it's better to leave it to a lower level regulations. There should be a supportive organization inside the government who is driving the changes from a technological perspective, but also broader, how to simplify the services, how to push all government agencies to join the online services and develop online services and change the services. And it's all about change management, because it's a beauty of the game is how to redesign the services now to having all this data in digital format and available online. And this is like it's a huge exercise for most of the governments how to do it, because government officials might be very creative, but in many cases they are not also very creative. And if you ask them why you are doing this process in the way as you're doing it now, the main answer is it has been in the way already for the last 20 years. So they do not rush to think how to re-engineer the processes, whatever the reason is. So if you can encourage them, it's great. But this is the most inspiring part of this change. And as discussed, there should be a political will. Without political will, nothing is happening. Okay. The same. Yeah. Benefits and then some samples from the services. Let's take a situation that you're sitting in your summer cottage, drinking beer with your buddies, and you got a good idea. Let's make a new startup, how to save the world. And in traditional means, you must probably, after this Saturday evening when you have been in country house, you probably forget about your idea. But if you can immediately go online and register a new startup company, as you have digital identity and you can go for online business register, you can start the idea immediately, because to collect those guys again to go to the office to register a company, you must really have a really good idea to do it. But if you can do it online immediately, it makes sense. It's really what we have seen in the countries where it's available, but it's really where the number of startup companies are growing rapidly. So basically, you must go log in with your ID card or mobile ID. When you need to select the name, business name, legal form, share capital, and whatever more, in the portal, there is automated checks about the names. If you select the name, they can check. There is automated check: is this name available, and is it the proper name? And when you can register the shareholders, go online to pay the government fees, and you have a couple of days after to pay the capital, and then it's done. So you can start business the next day. So you don't need to wait, because you can make automatic most of the processes. And how it contributes to SDGs, it's very much contributes. It's very much how to can provide decent work and economical growth. So if you provide those opportunities online for the people who are living in remote areas, it's actually making business for them much more easier. It's very much about innovation. It's also about inequalities. So people with disabilities or other vulnerable groups can do it online by not asking bribe in the government offices to register the company, and definitely contributing to no poverty task. Or if you're going for a hiking, you can sign at the same time digital signatures, because all the infrastructure is there. You're just getting a message that you need to sign the contract. You don't need to return to the office. You can continue your hiking. Just stop for a minute and sign the contract and go further. So it's also because you have digital signature in place and all the rules and regulations around it. And it's again contributing to the many SDGs, to make business much more accessible and making business much more easier and making business much more transparent, because to falsificate the digital signature is much more complicated than a handwritten one. Even in Estonia, during last years, I have seen the tendency that if somebody is bringing you a hand manually signed document, I'll be suspicious about it already, because not because it's signed the right person. It's probably signed a bit later than shown in the document. But in digital signature, it is just in this certain second, and that's it. But it's also like making business much more easier for the participants of the businesses, and communication with the government at the same time. Also, like a medical sphere, you can get the prescriptions online when you're outdoors, because if the doctors know you, you can call to the doctor, and there is a system where doctor can put all the prescription, and it's a must system for each and every doctor. You must put all the prescription online, meaning to online system. And what you need to do is just visit the closest pharmacy to you, show your ID, and you can buy the medicine. Definitely, you must visit doctor sometime. But it's when it's like a chronic disease, or doctor knows you, and sometimes you need to call to the doctor, and then it's sufficient. Then it's very much okay. And to visit doctor and wait in the doctor's waiting room, you can get much more new diseases from that. So it's all also because of the digital system what is making them online. And also it's contributing to good health and well-being, gender equality, sustainable communities, and so on. Also voting. You can vote online in Estonia, and because we have good civic register, and from the civic register, the voters register is populated for the elections, so you can vote online and do it wherever you are located. Again, a lot of gender equality issues, poverty issues, and peace, justice, and strong institutions. Or if you like to sell your car in the typical office where it's a messy, or you can do it here. Because if you like to go online, you can sell your car online also. Because all the data is there about your car, about your identity, and you can do it online. Just go into a portal, select your car, it's my car, and you can sell it to another person and also pay all government fees. Again, it's contributing to many SDGs. Online registration to the schools and universities, again, making things much more transparent, much more easier. Or whatever, water, sanitation, health, clear water services, affordable energy. If you have proper data about your citizens, about their locations, about their income, you can plan very well your water and sanitation systems, energy systems, also garbage systems, what are very much connected to a life below the water, life on land, SDGs. So there are so many connections, and all connected actually to the main one, was peace, justice, and strong institutions, definitely, and better governance. What's the future?
Hannes, to stop you there, you cannot get divorced online, apparently. Is that right?
Not yet. But it's not a technical reason. It's in the most of the cases, if you file your divorce application, the court says now you need to cool down and come back after 1 month for this procedure. So it's also in paperwork. Come down, cool down, think twice, and if you're still okay with it, you can do it after 1 month.
Some things you don't want to be quite instantaneous.
So yeah, so as you cannot buy the gun immediately, you can apply and when you're getting the gun after a week or something. So it's a procedure. It's not about technology. You can do it online, no problems, if you want. Okay, what's the future? I think the future is like government should be invisible. So if there is a data in place, transactions are in place, digital identity in place. So the only government, physical government, what I like to meet is in my mobile phone or tablet or somewhere else. Because I do not need to have a government physical buildings. Okay, we need to have a government that's running schools, protecting border, having army or something. But for the daily transactions, I need just mobile app. And I think if my driving license is expiring, what I just need notification from the government that it's happening. How many of you know when your driving license is appearing?
I got notification telling me on my phone it expired.
Okay, but you never look at your driving license yourself and thinking when it's expiring. You may know about your passport because you're traveling and you need to submit this data often, but about the driving license, you must probably stop by the police officer who is telling you that it's expired already 2 years ago or something. Something like. So basically, but the government knows it. It's in the government databases. Government knows that your driving license is expiring. So why the hell government cannot tell you that? It's just to send a notification. And if you say okay, so this means that government knows your home address. So government can mail you your driving license. And that's it. You don't need to do anything else. Actually, you don't need driving license.
No, you need to go to the doctor, check your eyes.
Okay. Okay, but this is additional.
Your eyes expired.
My eyes expiring, yeah, probably. And this is another funny thing that my father was around 80 when he was getting medical approval to drive another 10 years.
Wow.
What was not a very good idea. Anyway, so government knows it. So actually, you don't need a driving license because if a police officer stops you and he or she having access to the databases, you don't need to have your physical driving license because the driving license again is just printout from another database.
Yeah.
And you need it probably when I drive to Latvia. Latvian police officers are very eager to stop me because we know that Estonians are driving without driving license all the time.
Yes, those Estonians.
Okay, so the future. Government is proactive online, always accessible, and also the use of the government services must be intuitive. It's not that I'm filling out the huge application, it's just asking, do I like it? Yes, no, done. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannes. Thanks very much, Hannes. And we have a little bit of time for questions or for any discussion that we feel. I mean, certainly there's a lot of thoughts that are swirling around in my head as I try to see, we have some great set of experiences here. We work in development, UNDP, very diverse type situations where perhaps you don't have as strong institutions. You don't have perhaps a rule of law. Not everyone has access to the internet. And by looking at some of these tools, in my mind, it really brings it home how UNDP has a strong niche and role to play in setting up the analog foundation so that some of the digital goods can then be, can really have impact on those who are left behind. I mean, that is the fundamental challenge, I think, that we have. And I think going forward, I can see how there's a very strong role for UNDP in trying to support the government, navigate. Well, probably from their perspective, there's a lot of vendor push. A lot of people coming to sell you the latest scanning machine and whatnot. And from our perspective, trying to make sure we have in place the analog foundation to really capture well. That was my favorite slide. We had those 4 points. So that's a bit of context. Maybe we can throw it open and have some of you guys come in and have questions, discussion, comments.
And if there's anyone online with a question, you
Yes,
can
I keep
also
forgetting to
send it in.
acknowledge.
We'll ask it live.
I have a question. You had this slide on the X road. Can you just tell a little bit more about that? How the system's built?
It's yeah, basically we can go for the slide, but it's in very brief. It connects. It connects. It connects databases, whatever they are. It connects the portal where you can access the data, and it provides the rules. So meaning that if I'm as a citizen logging into government portal, it provides me access to my data only, or my children data until they are children, meaning under 18.
Yeah.
After 18, I in one place in the government portal, I can see family relations, and I can see that I'm having 3 children. Never ever anymore, I cannot see their data.
Oh, I see.
what is okay very much actually, because now we are adults and responsible by themselves.
And I'm not paying for college, so. But that's
This is not supported by the government. So you can put together, according to the rules, the data here for whatever service, what is according to the law. So it's not that you can collect the data whatever you want. But the beauty is also that it's open partly for the system is open also for private enterprises. So if it's according to the law, they have access to a certain data, like banks who must identify their clients, they might have access to a population register just to verify that if I'm Hannes Astok and what is my actual data, and am I really registered in the Estonian population register, or like car insurance companies can have access to a vehicle register just to retrieve the data about basic data about the car, not to make any mistakes, and write back the data where the government can be sure that as we have a compulsory car insurance that all the cars are covered with it, or police having access to it. So it's like bringing access to the data according to the law.
So basically, each of these organizations have their own database.
Yes.
And then it kind of filters out whatever is accessible through that single portal.
Yes.
And when
Single
you have
service, let's
like
say.
these views, like
So if I'm logging in as a citizen and asking for a service, like to register my children to a school, I'm getting access to my data, my children's data, probably some other educational data, and I can do a registration.
But how do you ensure that each of these little databases, that they are up to this certain standard, so that because they have to be kind of
there is a standardization.
Compatible.
It's not the same. The software could be whatever database software, but the data formats are in standard, so they can be retrieved and could be exchanged.
And how do you ensure that? Is that in legislation?
It is to use this system. It's according to legislation. All government institutions must connect to the database as well, and must use the same system for the data exchange. It's not voluntary. It is compulsory.
But this is a big step, right? The interoperability of the databases. Because, for example, in Moldova, with our current electoral project that is more like a public administration project, kind of the main part of the current project originally was we were supporting the electoral registry, but now it's like how the interoperability with all the other registries. It's kind of a complex.
It is, and the main bottleneck, what we have seen in many countries, is not how to technically connect them. It's doable very much, but most of the government institutions do not want to open their data to other institutions because data is power. And in Moldova, very much the same. And they don't want to open the data because they like to manipulate by owning the data. It's very much doable to manipulate whatever, either in personal level, either in broader level. And another issue is that they all claim that their data is the world's best data, but actually there is so many mistakes. But until you don't open it, and the data owners, citizens and businesses do not see what is the data quality and cannot correct it, it will remain bad. But if it's open, I see that in some register my data is wrong, I report it, and they must improve it. And it's like crowdsourcing. It's making like everything better.
But for example, is there a hierarchy of the data? Because I understand this principle that you mentioned of only once, right? So one, that means that piece of information, I should give it to one government agency, but not the others. So for example, my birth date should not be given to the electoral registration, but only to the population registry, right?
Yeah, there is a certain hierarchy. It's usually like a main registry is a population registry, business registry, land registry, property registry, because they are like keeping the unique data. If it's a vehicle registry register vehicles, but connects it to the owner. I have a business, I have a person. What is already retrieved from the business registry or from the civil registry?
Can you tell us?
Oh, okay. I think we have Robert and then.
Thanks, Hannes. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. You mentioned, of course, the trust is extremely important in this kind of ecosystem. And of course, some of us also know that Estonia was one of the first countries to be cyber attacked. And so in meeting a government official, if you were in a country representing UNDP, or you're traveling as you're an advisor, what would you answer to a government official who asks that question? Is it really secure? And what has Estonia done to make this so secure that there's no doubt that the trust would be doubted? So that's one question. The other one is about cost, because the other question you get from a government official will be, how much is this really going to cost? And for Bangladesh, as you know, I've said, going from the scale of 1 million, 1.3 million, of course you have a per capita issue there, but to 150 million, 60 million, the cost became prohibitive. And it was one of the disincentives, although you might save in the long run, one of the disincentives to invest. So are costs coming down, or is it a package that's going to always be, like, what's your view on that?
Yeah, thank you. Trust is definitely a critical issue, but you cannot ensure trust from one point. Okay, you can do technical systems very trusted, but it's always at the end there is some human. I have a government official, let's say, from this perspective, and also government officials must be also trusted that they do not manipulate the data or they do not sell the data or they don't put in wrong data. So it's a definitely broader governance problem, not only technology. It's hard to bribe a computer, like our president was saying, but it's still possible because the data is mostly inserted by the humans. So it's a broader question about the government, but you can definitely eliminate a lot of corruption in the government, because if you're doing the transactions online, you can follow them much more better, and you can follow all the transactions, who made it, and monitor it. But the trust is a much more general issue about the government, so it should be developed step by step. About the costs.
But before just a quick follow-up.
Yeah.
But on the technological side,
it's very much doable in trusted manner.
Yeah, and what did Estonia do to change to make because hacking is the thing of it's the most important job for a lot of people in the world. They're just hacking in order to profit and so on. So if you have so many people out there with so many motivations and everyone is being hacked, how does Estonia deal with this threat?
It should be, but it's a organizational and technical issue. So first of all, definitely the technical measures should be in place, but this is those are pretty traditional in the sense that you are keeping your virus protection up to date and this kind of stuff, and you do not share your passwords online or something like that. So usually the technical hacking might be massive, but there are massive measures to protect it also. And it's not that expensive in the government.
Is this distribution part of that?
Yes. Yeah, it's also this one, but also I'm not very in deep expert in cybersecurity, but I understand that the vulnerable part is the government official who is getting the suspicious email, but he or she do not understand it, and when it's open, when it's a computer is virus, and then it's like going further, and this is the main problem. So it happens everywhere. And hackers are not only bad guys, there are also like the terrorists, and also our governments are very much interested to get into your government information systems. So it's basically my answer is that yes, it's a huge problem everywhere, but at the same time you cannot say that we do not go for the digital because there is this problem. It's like you're refusing to drive a car because there are car accidents every day, everywhere, or you refuse to fly because there are flight accidents. It's the same. But about the money, I think it's scalable much more. Actually, bigger the government is, cheaper it is. because it's like any other technological solution. Most of the solutions what we are using in Estonia, you can easily use also in Bangladesh. It's very much scalable, but the core cost is whatever, one unit, okay, it might be one unit for Estonia and it might be 1.5 for Bangladesh, but there is 200 times more people than in Estonia.
Yeah, I was thinking about the unit cost indeed. At that time, it was about the card itself, and that
Yeah.
became that was
Yeah, sure.
the first investment cost.
Yeah,
was a lot. too.
But for the back-end technical system,
Especially when you're prioritizing against other, things.
Exactly. But what we like to say that we made e-government, sometimes government asking, but we cannot make e-government because it's so expensive. I think our answer is that we made e-government because we didn't have money.
Right.
This is the answer. Not because we have money, but because we haven't money. And it's the way, in the long run, what is making your government efficient, transparent, and cheaper also. Let's take this data issue. As I mentioned, there is like every year there is like a 350 million data queries. And why this is so big number? It's not because citizens are doing, which means 350 transactions with the government every year. No. I'm doing 2-3 transactions with the government as a citizens per year. But let's say each and every month, pension authority pays out for pensions. And in Estonia also, like pension and social subsidies, where it's like, I guess 300,000 people are involved getting pensions or whatever social subsidies. So this means that each and every month, pension authority pays out them, but before paying it out, they are doing massive query to a civil registry and asking, are all those 300,000 people are A, still living in Estonia and eligible to get this money? B, are they passed away or not?
Yeah, still living.
Are they living or not? So meaning that, and if you calculate, let's say 300,000 payments every month, let's say it's $100 per person, just to ease the calculation. And if you are making like 1,000 missed payments each month, because you don't know is this person alive or not, and this means already that this is $1,100. It's $100,000 per month what you can do as a missed payment. And if you do it somewhere, in Malawi, most probably you'll never get this money back from the families. It's cheaper not to claim it back even. So you can already, by having proper register and digital government, you can save a lot of money from the places where you even do not count this is possible to save. In Namibia, the first service what is implemented with a similar system is the pension system payments. Exactly the same reason. They understand they are making so many missed payments for the families of the people who are not alive anymore, still paying it out months and months and months, $300 per month. So it could be huge saving, not directly from the technology.
And sorry, just one last point then, thanks, that's very helpful, that there's kind of a return on investment in your presentation, what you're saying now. Do you have any metrics like that when you go and present where you can say, this is our upfront investment, but here's then the curve, the costs go down and the benefits increase, something like that?
We are trying to monitor it, but there is no good methodology available. European Union has tried several times to measure it somehow, but not successfully. But we are trying again to do it at least kind of simple metrics. That what is like explaining total cost of ownership, let's say, if you don't need to drive 50 kilometers to submit an application and then drive back another day to pick up the certificates, how much you save some.
What about the size of the public sector? Do you have numbers of if the public sector has shrink?
Yes, it has been shrinking, but there are several reasons for probably, and it's definitely again connected to a political will, and because in many countries again the public sector is just not to pay pensions or subsidies, but just keep people in payroll or whatever the reason is. In Estonia, it has been decreasing rapidly, and then it's, I think, at least most of the governments thinking that you need to do more with less, and this is the question. And already for many years, we started 25 years ago in Estonia, also almost from the scratches, to have a person in place. It's the most expensive, much more expensive than to have a computer. This is clear already. But it's all sometimes governments are fair that after implementing e-government, shall we now fire like half of the government staff? No. It may happen during whatever next 20 years, but there is a normal rotation also in the government, and people are retiring and going to other positions, other businesses. So in most of the cases, you just don't need to hire a new person. And after you can make those processes already computerized. So I think the government officials' positions must be not to be like a living typewriter. It should be the position where official is thinking.
Yes. So my question is regarding the implementation of the e-governments. So for example, when you implement for developing countries, like are there certain levels that you have to have in place? For example, certain database, like certain technology to support that? Because when you think of that, the cybersecurity, it might risk to the national security level. And then if you have some like regulation or some certain database protection system in place already, that might like help them to implement that and then move forward. But some small developing countries, they don't have the support, and they don't want like an external, external company to support them in that. They want to have their own little system. So how will you implement that?
And if I might just piggyback on that, in terms of systems that are still being created, can you tell us a little about like the legal mechanisms? So you're putting this system in place in a new country. What are the requirements for the legal system in terms of making sure that the data protection stuff is all squared away?
It's very much dependent on what is already existing and how the government sees the needs. So and then answering to your question also, that I think where you can start from scratches in each and every country, even if there is nothing like in Sao Tome. So basically, it's a great place to start because you can leapfrog whatever existing issues. You can go immediately to much more advanced technologies. Forget something what we are using now and think about tomorrow. So there is something you can start in each and every country, even creating databases or digitizing the documentation and digitizing the registries and going step by step. Nothing is happening in next day. It is not possible to implement e-government in 2 months. It's sometimes some prime ministers asking about, I have elections after 3 months. Can we do something, putting all services online? Basically, there is one option only to do it. What we are advising not to do is that if you like to have e-government like in Estonia, you must take over our legislation. You must accept our government as your government. But this is called occupation, so it's the best idea what your nation will appreciate. So basically, you cannot copy, but you can use the similar elements. You can be inspired, and also for the legislation in each and every country, even Estonia, Latvia, or Finland, very similar, very close country. You cannot copy anything. You can follow with some principles, but you need to go through in each and every country again and again and again. So it's about re-engineering the government, and each government is somehow unique. It's not the same government either in the neighbors, and it's so many small differences what actually making sense, but it doesn't matter. You can do a lot.
Are you using? I think I used the blockchain.
It's also like the data exchange system is more or less what we call blockchain. It's not directly the blockchain, but blockchain is already very wide term. So I think there is a lot of opportunities for UNDP also for the governance, better governance, innovation, and we are happy to cooperate definitely and share the knowledges. And if you like to send somebody to Estonia, it's always a good idea to inspire people and like Niall and Fernando was. And it's good starting point always because to keep the people together also and let them discuss what is the problem also what we have seen. Teams are coming like Deputy Minister with his ICT team is coming to visit Estonia to learn more, and it appears that it's first time in their life they are talking to each other.
Oh my God.
Because IT guys are somewhere in the cellar, they're kept in cellar, and the big boss is upstairs, and they never discuss. And when the ICT guys telling us later that the deputy minister says that, oh, this is marvelous, let's do it in the way. And we have told him, trying to tell him like already
Yeah,
3 years, and let's do it.
That's typical. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
thank you very much, Hannes. I think we'll need to wrap it up now, but
Yes, sure.
it's been very informative, and we are looking to firm up a longer-term cooperation with the Estonian e-governance Academy, so that we're able to provide services to our country offices on a more on-demand basis, and to try and make it a little bit easier for them to access that level of expertise that may be required in highly complex and very diverse type contexts. So thanks very much. I don't think we have five viewers online, which I'm very happy with, and I thank them from here. I don't think they have any questions though.
No questions.
They posed. So thank you very much. And have a good rest of the day.